Welcome to Godstowe in September 2020. My name is Sophie Green and I am Headmistress. I do hope that you have already been able to watch the video in this part of our website which gives you a virtual tour of our school. It is very thorough and I am sure very helpful. However, we wanted to make an additional recording now that the school is reopened with all of our pupils back to explain to you all about the measures that we have been able to put in place which have allowed us to welcome our pupils to the new academic year. All of our pupils are back on site, our boarding houses are busy and thriving, and I do hope that you will enjoy following us around the school to see how the measures are working. We have three aims for our academic year. Our first aim is to ensure the health and safety of our pupils. We have already spent quite a long time talking to them about the one-way systems, the need for social distancing and enhanced cleaning and hygiene measures. Our second aim, which is not at all far behind, is to ensure that the pupils can resume their learning in the classroom. Having spent 6 months out of school, we feel it is now just so important to engage and motivate the pupils to continue with their progress. And our third aim is that we all look after each other. We are such a large community with pupils, staff, parents and boarders that all we can do in what has been quite a challenging few months is make sure that we listen to each other, support each other and help every pupil here be the best that he or she can be. So I'd like to start first of all by showing you the building that we have allocated to our fourths. That is our year 8s, the oldest girls in our school. So this whole building behind me is the building in which all of the lessons for those girls will take place. I hope you can see straight away that we've implemented a clear one-way system and we have sanitising stations outside all of our buildings, and we'll go in now and I can show you a little bit more. So we're inside the building now, and of course we won't go in because of privacy, but these are the toilets that we have allocated to the older girls and no other year group will be using those. You can also see that because we have our 2 science labs up the stairs, we have a wait and direct system to make sure that no girls will ever cross paths as they wait to go into the lab. So this is our waiting station. As we follow the one-way system around this building, we can have a quick look in the science room and see all of the girls working. And actually, not in this lesson, but in a previous lesson, we did have girls joining the lesson on Teams remotely, and those are girls who are having at the moment to self-isolate while they're waiting for the results of their COVID tests. So as we continue along, I can show you here an empty classroom because these girls will be having a lesson in one of the subject specialist rooms. As you can see, the desks are all set out and facing the front. The windows are open. There's a clear demarcation for the teacher area to encourage social distancing and sanitising products which are readily available in every room. And as we walk along to the end of this top corridor of the Year 8 area, it might be interesting to have a look into one of the classrooms as we follow the arrows which are clearly guiding us down the stairs. So I hope you can see that this is a very bright and airy room, really well ventilated, all the windows open, the desks spread out so that girls can socially distance, sanitising products readily available, and indeed a very pleasant learning environment for our girls. So as we come near the end of the route for the Year 8s, I'd like to just pause a moment and reassure you that we have enhanced cleaning measures in place. So the banisters, which of course are frequent touch points, are being regularly cleaned in between lessons during the day. And we follow the one-way system outside every classroom. We have hand sanitisers and signage reminding all the girls and staff about what they need to be doing. A further one-way sign as we approach the doors, more information about hand washing, and then as we go out, we find ourselves right at the end of the Year 8 bubble. So this is our art room, and we continue to be extremely proud of our art at Godstowe. The way this room is organised is a little bit different because all of the different year group bubbles are using this room. So our head of art has written a very thorough protocol about cleansing and sanitising in between the bubbles to make sure that we can still have our subject specialist teaching going on for our pupils.
Okay, so girls, what do we do in the art room to keep ourselves safe? We've got some new rules, haven't we? Okay, Imogen, do you want to say what we do?
We always sanitise our hands when we come in and when we go out.
Okay, so there's sanitiser machines over by the door, isn't there? Okay, so what else, Eleanor?
We only wear art overalls. We have to bring them because we can't borrow any of the ones in the art room.
Okay, so you have to bring your own, and then you take them home and hopefully get them washed regularly, don't you? Okay, and Freya, do you want to say what we're doing?
We go in the outside way. We don't go through the school.
Okay, so we use the one-way system. So we've got an outside door where the sanitisers are, and we go out through this main door. Okay, Olivia?
After we use pencils or rubbers, we put it in the container so it can be disinfected.
Okay, so everything you use during the lesson goes in here, doesn't it? And it gets taken away for about 72 hours to quarantine, or I disinfect it ready for the next lesson. Okay, Millie?
After we've finished our work and everyone's done, we need to disinfect everything. So we get the blue cloth and the spray thing, and we disinfect all the tables and the chairs.
Yeah, just clean everything, don't we? Even sometimes the handles of the bins and the door handles get sanitised as well. Okay, Mimi?
Well, we have 3 sinks over there where we wash everything and everything goes down.
Okay, and then at the end of the washing up, what happens to it after we've washed it up? Because we're extra cleaning it. Do you remember? They go into the 3 washing up bowls which have sterilising liquid in them. So after they've been washed up, they also get sterilised. Okay, Ariana?
We don't touch too many things, but that we're not going to really use. We only touch things that we're going to use, or else if we just touch everything, we might spread germs and other people might want to use them and they might get a bit ill.
Good. And Michelle?
We shouldn't go touching one thing to another without asking the teacher first, because there could be some things that she wants other people to use in different lessons.
Yeah, very good. So if I need it for my next lesson and you've touched it, it might spread a few germs. Good. Okay. Well done, girls. I think we've got it all, haven't we?
So here we are in our music centre, and following our same policy of allowing minimal visitors into school, all of our music lessons are being conducted by our peripatetic music teachers, but remotely. So actually I can hear a lesson going on in one of these rooms. I think it was one of our younger girls having her very first lesson. So let's go in and have a look. So it's 12:10 and almost time for lunch for our younger girls. So let's go into the dining room and see the measures which we've put in place. So hand sanitising station here. The girls will have washed their hands, but it's really just as a double check. And then down into the serving area. So in the serving area now we have 2 separate serving stations, which means that the queues are moving more quickly. We have installed these special screens to protect the girls and the staff, and obviously the staff are all wearing PPE. We've transformed our dining area into 2 separate bubble areas, which means that 2 of our year groups can eat at the same time, but the partition in the middle will ensure there's no transmission of any germs. We've put measures in place to ensure that the girls are walking around less than normal. They all sit down first, knives and forks, water cups all sanitised, and actually it's very civilised. The girls can sit down and enjoy a lovely lunch very safely. So as we follow our one-way system up to Lodge, which is our pre-prep, and the swimming pool area, it gives me a brilliant opportunity to point out to you the separate play areas we have for the different bubbles. So this area near to me now is our AstroTurf area, which has been newly refurbished over the summer, so it's extremely clean and hygienic, and when the girls come out to play we'll just have 1 year group on this area. And then as we carry on walking, you can see that we've set out tables, and that is so that the staff can eat their lunches outside for as long as we can while the weather's nice, being able to socially distance. And as we carry on walking around the school, this is another of our bubble areas where a separate year group can play on the grass. And then right towards the end we have our netball court area, which again yet another bubble can play on at lunchtime. And obviously you can see at this point we're actually using it for a games lesson for one of the year groups. And here you can see our sports field, which we've split into 2 with the cones down the middle, as you can see, and our year 7s will play in this half and our year 8s will play in this half. So behind me you can see our Godstowe swimming pool, which we opened a little over a year ago. It was very difficult for us in lockdown when we had to close it down entirely, but we're delighted now that we have it fully reopened with following all the guidelines and restrictions from Swim England, and that the girls are already enjoying their swimming lessons again. So let's go inside and have a look. So I'm going to hand you over now to Mr. Michael Park, our swimming pool manager, who's going to talk to you about all the measures we've put in place inside the swimming pool.
Hiya, welcome to the Godstowe swimming pool. I'm just going to take you through to the changing rooms where the girls will be changing for their lesson. We will only ever open up 1 changing room per lesson, so it's quite easy for the girls to navigate their way through. So we'll go through. Before the girls come into the changing rooms, they would have taken their shoes and socks off, or shoes and tights off, and placed within the shoe cubby holes, and then they will be coming in. We've left the first door open so that the girls have minimal touch points within the changing room facilities. And if we go into the changing room, to not overawe the girls within the changing room, we've made it as simple as we can that the girls will hang up their clothes or their session bag and then leave 2 pegs in between each girl, so that it's quite simple and easy for them to see when changing. To minimise touch points and contact, we have sectioned off the toilets, and there is an accessible toilet on poolside that the girls can then use, which will be cleaned after each lesson, so it minimises any more touch points for the girls. Once the girls have come through, again we've opened up the main door, which will be by myself or the PE staff, just again to minimise the touch points, and the girls will then go onto poolside to the shallow end and wait for their lesson to start. For the girls' school swimming lessons, they would start in the shallow end and they would be going straight into the pool. Any equipment that they would use will be washed down, which I follow the guidelines of the PUTAG guidelines. It's with chlorinated water. And once the girls have finished the sessions, they exit out of the shallow pool and then they go straight back into their changing rooms. Once they finish changing, all of the touch points, so the benches, the door handles will all be wiped down, and the toilet, when it's been used, will also be wiped down, ready for the next lesson. With anybody else that's using it, so at the moment we have a staff swim going on, they will follow a one-way system. There are changing stations that are allocated around the pool, which they will then put their clothes or any belongings on, and once they finish their session they will then put their clothes on over, and we're just labelling that as a beach style turn up and swim. Again, it minimises any touch points for the users, and it enables everyone to have a clear understanding of what to do when turning up.
So we've arrived now at our pre-prep. This is the area of Godstowe which is for our children aged from 3 until age 7. And we were very fortunate here really, because we already had separate buildings for some of the year groups. So over there we have our nursery building, and here we have our reception age children building, which is completely self-contained with its own garden area. And then behind me here is our lodge building, where we house year 1 and year 2, and again it has its own hall, which has been divided in a similar way to the one which I showed you before, so that 2 year groups can eat at the same time. We have one-way systems in place within this building, and I'm delighted to say that all of our younger children have returned for this academic year full of fun and ready to learn. So inside our lodge building now we can see our very youngest children eating their lunch in this section, and behind them in the other section, that's our reception age children enjoying their food. This is the office of our Deputy Head Academic, Mr Whitworth. Mr Whitworth plays a large part in placing our girls at the senior schools of their choice, and he's going to talk to you a little bit now about how he does that, arranging visits or interviews being conducted remotely to make sure that we continue to keep our Godstowe girls safe.
Hello, my name is Charles Whitworth. I'm Deputy Head Academic here at Godstowe. One of my roles is to help parents choose senior schools for their daughter and also prepare their daughter for the interview process and assessment process for those senior schools. We begin the discussions with parents no later than year 5, often before that, and we will hold a series of different events, information evenings, senior school panels, to try and make sure that they're well informed about the options open to them. The advice we'll give will be very much in the knowledge of their daughter, her strengths, her character, whether she's used to boarding, considering boarding, whether parents are looking for a day school. But that can be quite an extended dialogue, 2 or 3 meetings, and we will narrow it down to perhaps 2 or 3 different schools. In terms of helping their daughter prepare for the transition and the assessment process towards that transition, we will help with interview practice. Obviously the academic rigour of the school prepares for the examination process, whether it's at 11 or 13, very typically at 13 plus. And many of the senior schools during COVID are moving their assessment process online. So there's some change, some shift in the timings of the assessments, but actually the preparation remains largely unchanged. So the typical assessment process now would be online, probably invigilated by the senior school, and would be accompanied probably separately by a 15 or 20 minute interview, again online on Teams or Zoom. And we will facilitate that in school so that there's no need for your daughter to attend the senior school unless absolutely necessary. We will, in a typical year, host a panel event of senior schools. Obviously this year we're just creating such plans for the spring term. We do, however, have an event in mid-October with Eve Jardine-Young, who's the head of Cheltenham Ladies College, who's coming to talk not just about Cheltenham Ladies College, but about the transition to senior schools. And that'll be an event that's open to many parents. So that's a very typical example of what we'll try and do to make sure people are well informed about the process. One very typical assessment that many senior schools use is the ISEB's pre-test, which a child would typically sit during year 6 or year 7, and they sit it at their prep school. That's not changed, and that is very well set up for current conditions, because there's no need for the child to travel to the senior school. And those results for the pre-test can be shared among a number of schools, so that the child would only sit the test once, and the results could be shared by an A choice, a B choice, of senior school. So that remains unchanged and is well suited to the current situation.
So here we have the office of our Deputy Head Pastoral. Mrs Kenyon, of course, is very busy at this time, as one of our key priorities is looking after the girls and their mental well-being as they cope with some of the challenges and changes which they have managed through this difficult period. So I think Mrs Kenyon will be very pleased to explain to you some of the things that we've been doing to support the girls.
I'm Olive Kenyon and I'm the Pastoral Deputy. Here at Godstowe we've got an absolutely fantastic pastoral team. We've got somebody in charge of 3 different areas of the school. One person is in charge of Lodge, that's all the little tiny ones. Somebody else in charge of the lower school, and Mrs Reynolds in charge of the upper school. Those people have under them teams of tutors, and the girls' first port of call is always to the tutor. The tutor will sort out things daily, anything that might happen. It might be small incidents, upset from other friends, or it might be something really happy and cheerful, you never know. And then if it's deemed to be something a little bit more important or a bit more worrying, then it will be passed on to the head of school and they'll deal with it. And I have oversight over everything that's going on in the whole school. In school we're very lucky to have a trained ELSA. That's somebody who can help with emotional literacy. An example of that might be if a grandparent had died in the family and a child was finding it difficult to talk to their mummy because they think that she might get upset, and so there's somebody in school that they can go and chat to about that. We're very careful to make sure that we talk to parents before children speak to the ELSA, but if the parents are in agreement, then she can work with the child for up to 6 weeks. Obviously, as a boarding school, we've probably got additional pastoral care than most schools because we're 24/7, and the boarding staff are also fantastic with girls, listening to their problems or joining in when they're happy and cheerful. During lockdown, we put an awful lot of additional help in pastorally for all the children, so we doubled the number of tutors so that there were a lot more tutors helping the children even than normal, and so they had meetings first thing in the morning and at night and cleared up lots of issues as they arose. So I think we're quite proud of what we did during lockdown. I think the pastoral care was increased considerably, and we've only been back at school now for 2 weeks, but we haven't had many issues. Parents have been very supportive at home with their children. They supported them with their online learning, and I think they supported them and knew that they needed time to play, and parents have listened to them in their worries, and probably it hasn't impacted on them as much as it could have done. We usually have a pastoral thing that we work on every year, and we have worked on things like sleep, because we think it's really important that children have a good sleep every night. We encourage parents to make sure they get to bed on time and that they have a nice relaxing period before they go to bed. And children did sleep diaries to see how much sleep they actually did get. We also worked on things like healthy eating and just thinking about having 5 fruit and veg a day and maybe reducing their salt. And of course then we thought about exercise, making sure that children have lots of exercise. I think at Godstowe they do have quite a lot of exercise because they have a lot of PE, a lot of sports teams that they join in with. So they do have a lot of exercise which they do, which is good, and we wouldn't want to stop doing that. We did a whole session on mindfulness so that children had other ways of, had techniques to make sure that they could deal with stresses in their life. We spent a long time working on resilience, and in fact maybe COVID helped us with that because the children were able to become slightly more resilient. And there is, ongoingly we are going to be working on different issues as we go forward. It was absolutely lovely this week because in the monitors meeting on Wednesday, the monitors asked I asked the monitors what they could do because they can't do duties at the moment because they can't mix into different bubbles. I said they needed to do something which would raise their profile in the school and make them, give them something lovely to do. And the suggestion they came up with was to actually work on well-being in the school. So they are planning a whole series of assemblies over the next 9 or 10 weeks, bringing up different issues starting next Monday.
So during this time, since school has started again for the autumn term, we aren't really permitting visitors on site because of the risk of transmission. The very few visitors that do come have their temperature taken outside and sanitise their hands before going in. One of the things that we've really had to think very carefully about is how we can ensure that our parent community remains very much part of our school, given the fact that our parents have very little opportunity now to actually physically come into the building. But I'm pleased to say, of course, that we've all become experts on video conferencing and the use of Teams. So we've already held year group meetings with our parents. At the moment, we anticipate that parents' evenings will be held in that way. And of course, when parents drop off and pick up, we are still able to see them and have very short chats from the car. Many parents have asked us about our transport to and from school. We're delighted that the DfE regulations have allowed us to continue with our 3 minibus routes. We do again have measures in place, so all of the girls have their temperatures taken before they get on the minibuses in the morning. If their temperature was above 37.8, they wouldn't be permitted to get on the minibus or indeed come to school that day. However, once on, the girls sit in different areas of the minibus according to their year group. They do wear masks. Obviously that is compulsory for those over 11, but the majority are choosing to wear masks, and the windows are kept down. And then when the girls arrive at school, they're straight off the bus and into their day. And that of course leads me on very nicely to those girls that don't come to school on our minibuses. We have new systems in place for both drop-off and pick-up, and we'll be able to show you those shortly. So it's 4 o'clock now, and our girls will almost be coming down ready to be picked up. As you can see, we've organised different coloured gazebos, or gazebos marked with different colours, one for each year group. As the girls come down at 4:10, they go into their correct year group gazebo, and by then we have rows of parents waiting to pick up, being directed by our estates team, and the parents simply drive up in 2 rows, one here and one there, and the staff direct the children safely into the vehicles. This is actually very different from how our girls were picked up before, but we have found it to be very efficient and safe. We also have a lot more girls leaving at 4:10 than we would ordinarily, because usually before lockdown and before the pandemic, we were able to offer a very wide range of after-school activities. At the moment, a lot of the girls do stay on until 5:30 and 6, and some until 6:30. But really, during that time, they take advantage of some quiet time to complete their prep. Once our new regimes have bedded in a little bit more, we are planning on starting again to offer a wider range of after-school activities.
Hello, my name's Michelle Weston-Kay. I'm a house parent of Turner House, the house that we're in at the moment, alongside my husband, Mr. Scriven. We're jointly house parents here, and I'm also head of boarding. Previously to being at Godstowe, I've been at Godstowe for, this is my 14th I think, year. Previously we were at another prep school locally, and I was head of girls' games at that school.
Okay, so yeah, whenever.
Welcome to Turner. This is a 4th boarding house this academic year. As a result of COVID, we've split our houses. So this is a year 8 house, which we call at Godstowe for the 4ths. Our house, Highlands House, has the middles, which is year 6, and the uppers, year 7. And our junior boarding house, which is Walker House, has forms 1 and 2, which is year 3 and 4, and lowers, which is year 5. So although they have got 3 year groups in the junior boarding house, they only have 2 or 3 of year 3 and 2 and 3 of year 4 whereas here we've got 20 fourths, so we've split it up into year groups. And we are a pod, we are a family. The girls call this their home and they say they're coming home from school. And for the purposes of any isolation, we would isolate as a household would, and the girls would access their lessons via work packs and Teams and Google Classroom. So they would just attend school but in their boarding house. We've got ample grounds to go outside when the other girls are in school. So look, we call it isolation, and we stay in the boarding house. We'll have our meals here, the kitchen will deliver our meals. So we have a plan which is there just in case, and in fact it has happened in one of the in the intermediate boarding house in Highlands. The girl was actually negative, but she had a bit of a cough, and they spent 48 hours and it was absolutely fine. A couple of new sort of ideas we've put into action when we came back in September is to have a one-way system throughout the house. So girls will come in through the front door, go downstairs to exit, and along we've got access to school that way. So we're always one way. Although we are a pod, we are a family, so these girls will be together all the time. We don't have visitors or other girls coming into the house or staff unless we have contract workers, and they sign in and sign out so that we've done track and trace in the house. These are our trusty handheld thermometers which we use in the morning and in the evening to record the girls' temperatures. We were previously taking their temperatures at snack time, but we've decided that it's better really, and taking advice, to get their temperatures taken in the morning on the way to school after breakfast, and in the evening before they go to bed, so that we've got a view of the whole day and how they're feeling. If they weren't feeling well or they had a high temperature, we've got a 3-point plan in place. Difficult to say. Our first port of call would be to phone the medical centre. We have 3 sisters who work on a rota basis, so the boarding houses are covered 24/7. So we would phone sister and she would come over and we would isolate the girl, and sister would take it on from there. We have protocol and she would be following that, and we would inform the girls' parents. Each afternoon when the girls come home, they have a selection of fruit and biscuits, or sometimes it's a donut, which is a treat on a Monday. And this is the common room where they would be relaxing in the evening. And these are the girls' tuck lockers. They are supposed to be locked, but let's see. Oh, so they each have a tuck box and they can have their tuck. And in COVID times, which is now, we're asking them not to share tuck, which is quite hard because they like to be generous with it. We like the borders to be organised, so there's a board just behind you here which has all their music lessons, any appointments they might have, extra lessons, and the looked forward to Exeat weekend, which is coming up. And this is our second common room, and this is where the girls might do some work, so they're spaced out places, and over here. So they do their prep in school, which is supervised by a member of staff, academic staff, but they can continue to do their prep back in the house if they need to. We do have several scholars, so they choose to come on and continue working in the evening. So in here too we have our newspaper board. We have a duty dorm each week, and as part of their duty dorm the girls will research the newspapers, or our How It Works magazine, which are here, Teen Breathe. We have the weekly news, because we like them to be up to date with what's going on in the world, to be able to research their own news, because we are the senior house and they will be attending interviews, well they are now and they will be looking forward. But apart from all that, part of their well-being is to make sure that they are au fait with what is going on outside of Godstowe. And we have our sleep and environment board, which at the moment we are focusing on sleep as being part of their well-being. Later on we'll move on to healthy eating, rest and exercise, but at the moment we're focusing on sleep. So this year we are just a year 8 house. They're known as the fourths at Godstowe, because in this COVID time we have split the girls into different year groups in the houses. So it's just the oldest group here. Each girl is allowed to personalise her own area, and as you can see, some personalise more than others. We have 5 dorms and a maximum of 4 or 5 people in each dorm at the moment. So we've got 20 girls in the house. We can take 32, but we've kept the numbers low. So this is our much coveted laundry room by the other houses. They have super duper kitchens and ours is a little bit small, so we're very proud of our laundry room. The girls have their pile of clothes. They keep their home clothes up in the dorms and their pyjamas, but obviously their pyjamas, but this is their uniform, so they'll come and get their uniform and hand in their unclean uniform because we want them to be independent. They move on to senior school next September and they're going to have to manage this sort of thing. So although we put it clean on the piles, they're expected to get it and hand it in. And then their sports baskets keep all their spare sports kit in, so they have 2 sets of most things. One set they're using, one set's being washed and being brought back. This is also a drying room, so perfect. We don't have to use our tumble dryer and it's great on those wet, windy, wintry days. At the weekends they're allowed to contact their parents via video call, so some of them use FaceTime, some of them use Zoom, some of them use Teams, so they are able to see and look at their parents. This is the first time we've actually done it at Godstowe. We haven't done it before, but as the girls are full boarding, some of them until half term, something we thought would be rather nice for them to do, and it's worked out brilliantly, so I think we'll continue to do that as long as it's going well. We'll review it at half term and see how it's going. So they can contact home all but 2 days of the week. One's a Monday, one's a Thursday, which are no-go gadget evenings, and on those evenings we do sports hall games, games in the house or discussion groups. So phones take up a little bit of time, so on those 2 evenings they can focus on being with their friends and interacting and doing something that they enjoy as well.
Thank you for watching our virtual tour all about how Godstowe has successfully reopened. I hope you found all of the information helpful. We are holding open mornings throughout the year, and if you are interested, do please contact our admissions department to either sign up for one of our open mornings or to come and have a look around for a visit, as we have now opened our site to visitors. We'd love to hear from you, so please do get in touch.